One is a great one about transforming your world, and this is where the main idea of the company is really first and foremost to give back, and a couple of very inspiring stories. Please, Caitlin Crosby of the Giving Keys and
Great.
Tyler Merrick of Project 7, come on up.
All right, 7 Lee and Giving Keys, come on out, guys. All right, young entrepreneurs.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Gosh, they just keep getting younger, don't they? I'll start with you, Caitlin. What an amazing story, the Giving Keys. We've got 20 minutes for the two of you, so you can be expansive in your answer, but give us the story of the genesis of what you were doing before starting the Giving Keys and some of the aha moments that led you to do what you're doing.
Hi, guys. My name is Caitlin Crosby. I grew up in Los Angeles in the entertainment industry, and so I'm a singer-songwriter, and I was on tour, and you have your merchandise tables, and I was selling the CDs and the T-shirts and this and that, and one day I was in New York, and the hotel key I thought it was really cool, so I just put it around my necklace, and I got compliments on it all the time. So one day I was at the locksmith, and I saw all these old, used, discarded keys. And so I bought them from the locksmith, and I said, "Oh, can I pay you to engrave different inspiring words on these keys to sell at the merchandise table on tour?" So, I had them engraved words like strength, hope, love, fearless, peace, grace, all those nice positive words. And then every night they would sell out at the merch table more than my CDs. And I was like, "Thanks, guys, for coming to my show and listening to all my songs and buying these friggin' key necklaces." And so I knew that there was something special, and I would pair them up with different chains and leather and blah, blah, blah. So I would tie it into the whole, okay, I want you guys to get one that reminds you that you're one of a kind, just like these keys. You might feel like these keys. You might feel old, used, discarded, flawed.
Basically, the lyrics of every good country western song.
Exactly. Right? And I did that. I would tie it into I had blah, blah, songs and stuff like that. And then I came up with this whole pay it forward concept. So once you get one, you have to wear the key, own the word on there, embrace the word on there, and then you have to pass it on, pay it forward to someone that you feel needs the message on the key more than you. When you have that aha moment, like, someone just lost their job or went through a breakup, you can give them your key that says let go on there. That's a popular one for the breakups. Who loves breakups? Raise your hand. Love you breakups. But anyway, so it's a whole pay it forward concept, then created a website, Giving Keys, and then people started going to the website, and I had them write the story of why they gave it away. So it's all the stories of the keys being passed around the world. So all these stories started pouring in, like, so-and-so is about to commit suicide, so I gave them my key. So-and-so is about to, has cancer in the hospital, I gave them my key, blah, blah, blah. But then I knew there was a missing link. I knew I wanted the money to go to charity. I didn't know what. I waited for almost a year for that aha moment. And one day I was at church by myself, and on Hollywood Boulevard, and I left crying, like, what else can I do to change the world? Like, I need to do more, blah, blah, blah. And I saw a homeless couple. So I went up to them, and they were holding up a sign that said, ugly, hungry, and homeless. So I went up to them, I was like, why does your sign say that? What's your story, blah, blah, blah. And then I took them to dinner, and I wasn't thinking about the Giving Keys at all. And 2 hours into dinner, I said to the girl, I like your necklace. And she said, oh, thanks, I like making jewelry. And that was my aha moment. And I said, oh, do you guys want to be my business partners?
Now, this... This is where we should all be gobsmacked, because I'm gobsmacked, as you can tell. But, Caitlin grew up in an affluent home in West LA. Her father is an agent for a lot of Hollywood people. And doing something like the keys and the pay it forward, and that's a pretty neat idea. But having the idea to get homeless people, to provide them employment, to stamp out the keys, that's a whole nother level, because now you had to insert yourself, not your agent, not separated by distance, yourself into the world of the homeless, which is not, I dare say, not an appealing world for many of us. that to me was extraordinary. So I think you passed over a little too lightly because it's such a powerful part of your story. Tell us how you were able to make that leap.
It was super organic for me because like he said, my dad manages all these people, and I was just used to seeing a lot of people with a lot of money and fame, and that really didn't make anyone happy. And so it was just this contrast of, okay, these people in that world that I know really well need hope, and they need faith, and they need strength, and they need, all these messages on these keys, and then now all of our homeless employees, they need all those messages on the keys too. So everybody's kind of the same. We all need those things. But so when I went up to them, they were just like friends. I thought they were cool people. And then little by little, they saved up enough money, got off the street. First, they were staying in a motel. When I met them, they were living in a dumpster, in a paper box in a dumpster. And then they started saving up enough from the keys to stay in a motel. Then they got their own apartment and GED and this and that. So now we've hired a ton of homeless people. And at first it was trial and error, because it was unsafe at first. I would go to Skid Row and that long stories. And then I realized that wasn't sustainable. And so I partnered up with different transitional homes like United Way and Path and Chrysalis. So they screen the people for us to make sure that we're hiring people that are, sober, getting drug tested, and really making resumes, and they, have been in jail for 30 years and literally cannot get a job. So that's kind of, but we have a very mixed work environment. We have 20-something employees, and it's, a lot of the people with bullet wounds in their faces and slashes in their faces, and then fashionista girls, and they're all now family and best friends.
What did your parents say and your friends say when you suddenly ventured out into the homeless world, where there's addiction, there's violence, there's disease? They
were always worried. They're always upset. But I was doing this since I was a little girl. I would go up to every prostitute that I saw, every homeless person, and she's like, "What's your story? Let's be friends. Can I take you to youth group?" And my parents were like, "Caitlin, stop. This is not safe."
Yeah, and yet that's the example of Jesus. But and we're all, most of us in the room are Jesus followers. But my goodness, that's where 99% of us would fall short.
No.
And you didn't fall short.
It's super easy. It's not, it wasn't like I didn't come up with the idea. I wasn't looking for them. It was genuinely, I think that's my encouragement whenever I speak at business things, to encourage people, it has to come from a place of really caring about a person or something, and not just I'm gonna try to come up with a social entrepreneur idea. But it's if it's not really based on being, loving something or a cause or caring about this cause, then it's probably gonna come across, not, authentic. So I think it was really based from I met them and they were amazing, and they were raised on the street, and they had so much potential, but they smelt horrible. There was no way they were gonna get a job anytime soon, and they just needed a little encouragement and asking them about their dreams and this and that, and it just was organic. So I think if we keep our eyes open to all the needs that we see around us, that's when ideas for businesses or just having new friends can start. Just keeping your eyes open.
Wow, Tyler, tell us about Project 7, what it does, how are you motivated to start?
Yeah, I grew up in a family business, a pet food business of all things. That's dog and cat food, and so you don't meet someone like that who comes from that background every single day. But I went back to work for my family, and the Lord was really gracious. We had a really good success in building a new natural pet food brand, and it actually became the #1 selling pet food brand in the natural channel. And I kind of had it all. My wife, she's here. We were high school sweethearts, we're classic old Texas, story there. And found myself in a place where I was on a 5-year succession plan to succeed my dad overall. And I had everything that I thought, possibly could want. And just really began to wrestle with, is this really how it kind of all goes down? And being raised in a Christian home, I had always been engaged with ministry and churches and nonprofits. And I loved the marketplace, but I really couldn't figure out how I reconciled the two. And so I began to really pray about leaving the business world altogether and going into full-time ministry. Felt like that I might find my identity there. And I mentioned I'm from a small town in Texas, so news doesn't travel as fast. And I was at lunch 7-8 years ago with a guy that some people thought we should meet, and this is when I was in that season. And we get to the end of his story, and I was trying to kind of put him in a box. And so I was like, what do you call yourself? What do you do, And he said, well, I'm a social entrepreneur. And I said, what's a social, entrepreneur? And he began to share with me, the idea of doing business with kind of a societal impact benefit. And all of a sudden, my world kind of came crashing together of, whoa, I don't have to leave the marketplace business to go into full-time ministry. What if I could put these two together? So that started a whole journey of praying with my wife about leaving the business officially, and then we did. And I had seen us build this really excessive, pet food brand. Everything from trout and duck and buffalo and Hollywood stars feeding, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, if we could build a brand around just completely the excesses of our dogs and cats, which I love dogs and cats, but I thought, what if we could build a brand, because I came from consumer goods, what if we could build a brand that in its essence would be about giving while I was buying something for myself? So that's what I did. I left and I started the company Project 7, and we do it kind of in everyday items like packs of gum, coffee, bottled waters, where we kind of got our start. Now today we focus more on gum and mints, but it's a real easy packet. It's a real easy price point for people to get engaged. So, for under $2, they help provide a meal, provide a night of shelter, and it's a sustainable business model to giving back on the go.
And but how did you take what you learned in the private marketplace? What are for people who want to follow your path from the private marketplace? What lessons you take from the private marketplace into social philanthropy? But what did you have to learn from scratch?
Some of the things we would do that as a benefit from coming to the marketplace and then going to nonprofits. There's already nonprofits doing an incredible job out there. So my business model is just to connect with them and begin to resource them. So whether they're planting trees, providing clean water, providing nights of shelter. So one of the things that I was able to do was kind of optimize that supply chain for them. So help them try to get some real costs around what does it really cost you to plant a tree? What does it really cost you to provide malaria medicine? And then go to them and say, if I did 100,000 of these at a time or 1 million of these at the time, could we optimize that supply chain? So that's been helpful to them and me at the same time in kind of building that partnership. So that's that one.
Well, it was interesting that Rick Warren and I went to see the great management consultant Peter Drucker in September 2004. Peter Drucker would die in November 2005 at age 95. So he was an old man, almost within his last year of life. And probably everybody's heard of Peter Drucker, and many of you know that Rick, at age 25, when he was seeking, Saddleback was only a vision in his mind, had the courage to go up to the great Peter Drucker to ask him if Peter would be his mentor. But one of the things that Peter Drucker, and it was perfect timing for Peter Drucker, because Peter Drucker had started devoting most of his energies to the nonprofit sector in the last 20 or 25 years of his life. But Peter Drucker always felt that when he started consulting nonprofits, he thought it was an act of noblesse oblige. He would teach nonprofits all these great business lessons. And he quickly discovered that the benefits ran both ways. If anything, stronger from the social philanthropy or nonprofit side, because any single scandal can bring down a nonprofit that's been in existence for decades. whereas in the private sector, you just fire the CEO. But that doesn't work in the nonprofit sector. And so, and that's where he really learned that nonprofits are held together by purpose and mission. So have you, what have you learned that kind of surprises you from the nonprofit sector, social philanthropy, that if you were to put the pedal to the metal in business again, that you would take that lesson with you?
You know, just the commitment, so many of them, I mean, all of our partners, at least that's all I can speak to, the integrity that they have about their product, which is the people they reach, the programs they resource. And they're not looking just for another buck, you know, to help do what they're doing. They want to do it well. They want to do it with authenticity, and they want to do it the right way. And so, you know, sometimes in business, you know, you can kind of be like, yeah, let's get this done, let's do a deal, you know, let's make this happen. And they're a little bit more, you know, disciplined. Sometimes it feels like it's painful, is kind of slower. But that discipline, what it's taught me is to really think through, you know, even our own, what we do, our stories, our products. And that's what I've learned from them, is just the integrity of what we do as a company. From them, I've learned in tons of lessons.
Caitlin, what would you suggest to people? How do people get over who might want to follow your path but are still have a hard time getting past the psychological barrier of the fact that, you know, things don't smell so good, things are dangerous, you know, all of these things, you know, when you're really hands-on dealing with the poorest of the poor as opposed to giving money to the poor. Talk about how to get over that fear, and what are the rewards on the other side. I can see the reward just in the radiance, you know, of your face telling that story.
It's my moisturizer.
It's your moisturizer.
Just kidding. That's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that question. That's so interesting. How to get over that? I don't know. It's so... Wow, that is a really good question. Because to me, it seems so normal. Like, maybe it's a little selfish because I love hearing people's stories, and it's just interesting to me. It's not that interesting to me to hear, like, oh, someone is, you know, rich and famous, and their story is fine, I guess. But I'm really interested in the story of these people. Like, how did you end up on the street? How did you end up here? So I think how to get over the hurdle was to maybe challenge yourself to be curious about people's stories, to get out of, you know, your little bubble about what's going on in your life and all the problems that you have in your life, which everyone has. But I think just challenge yourself to be curious and like care. And if you don't care, maybe challenge yourself like, why don't I care? And just kind of, again, keep your eyes open for all the needs that you see around you, because I think we pass, I know I still do, we pass them all day long, but I think the more we're just like super conscious and just aware, I think just challenge yourself. Go up to someone, start a conversation, whether it be your barista at Starbucks to someone on the street to, you know, your taxi driver or whatever. And I think that's how creativity starts, from hearing people's stories and getting out of your little bubble.
Did you ever have you ever felt physically in danger?
One time, yeah, maybe a couple times, but nothing too bad. Yeah, nothing too bad. I felt like I always would travel with good people around, but there was a few times that I was like, okay, I need to now go through a transitional home where there's professionals, because, yeah.
And professionals can help screen you from the violent or the morbidly addicted, or the kinds of people who may be beyond even your reach.
Right, and I was really strict with the first couple that we hired. They one day I went to their hotel room and I saw there was an empty alcohol bottle in their bed, and I was so angry, and I was like, you guys know that I don't want, the money is not supposed to go towards this, you know? And then I kind of cut them off for a while. But again, there was no way I could sustainably do that with a ton of people, because then they couldn't keep up with all the orders of the keys. This was 7 years ago, so we've sold a lot of keys since then. And so now we've hired so many people, and so I couldn't watch over all of them. I wasn't sleeping. My parents were worried about me, you know? And so now we have professionals in that world to, you know, again, screen the people. And it's still a lot of responsibility in the office now, because it's such a mixed environment, to make sure that even with them, like where is the money going? Are you starting a savings account and all that kind of stuff, which they are, so that's good.
And to complete this last question, Tyler, how do you convince your peers that this is worth doing?
You know, the game life. I have 3 daughters, and they love to play the game of life. And I'm always puzzled when we start out at the beginning of the game, where you have to choose if you're going to, go straight into the workforce or go get a college degree. And they're always kind of, there's tension there of like, well, I can make more money right now if I take the job instead of, waiting to go after the vocation. And the analogy with that is that wherever you're at today, my peers and in the room, is that I think sometimes we've married too much into that type of thinking that it's too late. The game's already started. I'm too far down the path. I can't do that now where I'm at. I'm an attorney. I'm an insurance agent. I'm somewhere else. And I think that's the important thing that I hope you take away from Caitlin and I's both of our stories is that, I was already in another career, had something completely else. Caitlin was singing, doing these other things. Is that to be open to where the Lord would lead you to do things. And but I would say too, though, don't be afraid. It's not like a cold turkey thing. I always tell people to moonlight their dream. And what I mean by that is when I started Project 7, I did an ad agency to help be my day job while I was getting Project 7 going. So it doesn't mean all of a sudden, I heard Tyler say, quit my job, what, honey, I'm going to do this other thing. Maybe work on that on the side, incubate that, try it out, see where the Lord leads, but don't be afraid to do that thing that he's leading you to. So it's not too late, and that, that's what I would say.
Well, I want you to stay seated because I've got to read just a couple housekeeping notes, but let's give these two a really big hand.